can never return to the place we knew before the virus waged a war on us. It has radically transformed us all in one way or another. The effect of this situation has not been lost on either the education systems themselves nor the very nature of the way instructions and learning takes place. Distinguished guests, thank you for inviting me to deliver this talk today. Now, we are presented with a once-in-a-generation opportunity to turn the present COVID-19 pandemic into an opportunity to building strong, effective, and resilient bridges over the turbulent waters of the disrupted education system everywhere. This sudden and unprecedented crisis has become a catalyst for exploring innovative solutions to build better and qualitative education systems. In considering how higher education systems can take advantage of the current opportunity, I submit the following three distinct but interconnected approaches to building back a better system benefiting both students and educators. Firstly, the use of technology and innovation. Secondly, the use of new pedagogical methods and curricula. And last but not least, embedding human values within the entire education system. So firstly, technology and innovation. With the massive and instantaneous pandemic-related education disruption taking place globally, innovation and technological advances will revolutionize the manner in which students learn and how instructions are delivered to students. Technology has already dramatically changed the role of academics during this pandemic, leading to the opening up of more opportunities for the use of innovation and creativity. For example, gamification and innovations such as the highly immersive virtual and augmented realities provide richer learning experiences for students and teachers alike. So, innovation in education means solving a real problem in a new and simple way to promote and enhance learning. Innovative ideas will evolve further as we embrace the fourth industrial revolution and the tectonic shift it promises to create and transform the education sector. 4IR, as it is known, is a fusion of advances in artificial intelligence, robotics, Internet of Things, genetic engineering, quantum computing, and more. Now, as the world wrestles with COVID-19, there is an opportunity to embrace this revolution in ways that would create a more inclusive, human-centered education system. The use of advanced technological tools will uncover the best possible ways to learn and instruct in more effective and efficient ways. Technology companies like Microsoft, Google, Samsung, Tencent, Ping An, and Alibaba are investing heavily in the education sector. Some of these companies have created content based on gamified learning, while others, like the massive open online courses, also known as MOOCs, have transformed how contents are delivered directly to the students, irrespective of where the students are located in the world. Under these evolving circumstances, campuses with large and costly brick and mortar edifices will have less of a utility than it has had in the past. Some of the existing physical spaces at these campuses may have to be repurposed to make them more suitable for the anticipated changes in the future. So, although technology will play a central role in any new education system developed, some form of face-to-face interactions between teachers and students will remain a critical component of higher learning. There are socio-psychological, socio-emotional, as well as socio-economic considerations to take into account, including campus life experiences, relationship building, and working in a collaborative manner that would further enrich the students' educational experiences. Now, in considering any future tech-driven education opportunities, we must recognize that there are many challenges to overcome. There are disparities observed in many low-income countries and those in the lower socio-economic strata in having access to the internet or the technology that would further widen the severe learning inequities. Now, in mid-2020, UNICEF estimated that less than half the population of the 71 countries it surveyed had access to the internet for the purposes of remote learning. This is a shocking and an unacceptable statistic. The task of creating an equitable education system that is capable of being sustainable in the long term would fall on the policymakers and the governments to ensure that adequate resources are being directed to assist those most in need. Inequitable education policies and the practices have a negative impact on individuals and limit their economic and social development. Evidence shows that equity can go hand in hand with quality. The need to bridge the digital divide is critical in ensuring that we are creating a flexible and resilient system, one which is inclusive and where no one is left behind. In building a truly inclusive and an innovative education system during the times of great change, it is important that higher learning institutes and their decision makers don't get lost in the granular details and miss the wood for the trees. Developing effective partnerships will speed up innovations and along the way also create value for the institutions. Collaboration must take place across the board in developing mechanisms that can cope with any future pandemics that may affect the education sector. A good example of such a collaboration that has been announced is between my alma mater, the University of Melbourne, and the University of Toronto. The alliance will provide funding for joint research projects, collaborative research training, and global classrooms to enable students at both universities to study together in person as well as virtually. Collaboration could also take the form of R&D, and in developing mechanisms that can cope with the future pandemics and future global health issues that has the potential to disrupt the education sector yet again. So as we move on, the development of more advanced technologies and innovation will further transform the future of education, and the higher education institutions must be prepared to adapt to these changes effectively and in an efficient manner. So, to my second point of pedagogy and curricula. Most higher education institutions globally still use industrial revolution style pedagogical teaching methodologies with their own inbuilt and entrenched institutionalized biases. This outdated approach is ripe for innovation. It has traditionally taken a one-size-fits-all approach to its pedagogy and curricula setting. Students follow a set of syllabus given to them at the beginning of the course and are assessed at the end of the course. In his book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, Yuval Harari, a noted scholar and a public intellectual, outlines how schools continue to focus on traditional academic skills and rote learning rather than on skills such as critical thinking and adaptability. He says that the new art and science of teaching must prepare students to compete against the ever-evolving AI and smart machines, thus creating lifelong personal and meaningful value for the learner. Such a system would also require curricula fit for the 21st century, laying a foundation for a lifetime of adapting and developing new skills sets that would be in demand in the real world in the future. Now, any new and improved pedagogical methods and curricula developed must have critical thinking component embedded in it. This would include forms of learning, thought, and analysis that go beyond the memorization and recall of information and facts. This process would encourage decision-making, brainstorming, connecting the dots of different ideas, and fostering creativity. Many groundbreaking human achievements required imagination and curiosity, traits that use cognitive flexibility as a basis of creating fresh ideas. This is creativity in action. UNICEF, for example, advocates balancing hard skills like reading and writing and math to soft skills like creativity and problem solving. There is tremendous transformation taking place in the field of healthcare and medicine by the use of neuroscientific techniques and neurobiological applications, data and informatics, and cutting-edge technology to create new and emerging possibilities for a more personalized patient care. It uses predictive tools to evaluate health risks and to design personalized care plans to help patients mitigate risks, prevent disease, and to treat it with precision when it occurs. A good example of this technique is what is being utilized at the School of Medicine at the Johns Hopkins University, which is exploring an innovative, more precise data-driven modes of personalized instruction called precision education to their students in its medical course. The results obtained by the university show positive responses from the students as well as from the instructors. I personally believe that the education sector in general occupies the same level of importance as the healthcare sector. Like precision medicine, precision or personalized education could help in optimizing learning in a similar fashion. To illustrate this point, recent applications of cognitive neuroscience in the education sector is providing possible technological enhancements for teachers, including understanding the biological processes involved in learning. There are increasing number of academic journals and textbooks dealing with the subject of neuroscience in education. They include Trends in Neuroscience and Education, Education in Neuroscience, and societies like the International Mind, Brain, and Education Society. So this diagram, reproduced from an article, Why Does Neuroscience Belong in the Classroom Practice, by Meteor Education, illustrates the seriousness with which neuroscientific community is emphasizing the use of neurosciences in the education sector. The use of neuroscientific techniques in more generalized education setting, however, may be more challenging as it would depend on an individual learner's genetic makeup as well as his or her state of mind at any given time. The World Economic Forum's Education 4 framework defines personal learning as one moving away from a system where learning is standardized to one based on the diverse individual needs of each learner and flexible enough to enable each learner to progress at their own pace. Personalized learning would then involve harnessing the power of information technology to provide learners with objective analysis of their progress and skills. Curriculum would be shaped on the data obtained from the individual students so that they progress at their own pace and learn in a modality that suits them the best. It has been shown that it is now possible using these techniques to distinguish between rote learning and learning through conceptual understanding. You can see from the Education 4 framework chart that personalized and self-paced learning is high on its list, as is lifelong student-driven learning, technology skills, and importantly, use of creativity to foster innovation, analytical thinking, and problem-solving skills. So, on to my last point of developing human values-based education system. Values are crucial, particularly during the global crisis like this pandemic. They are the fundamental building blocks on which any new education system would rest, motivating attitudes and actions. Values may be described as something that is good, desirable, and worthwhile, and they may be personal, cultural, and or religious in nature that govern all human interactions. Generally speaking, education prepares students for work and enter the job market. However, there is also a higher purpose in preparing students to become more insightful and creative human beings with ethical and social needs. In this context, education can be seen as learning for life and not just for making a living. In May this year, UNESCO and the International Institute for Higher Education in Latin America and the Caribbean published a report titled Thinking Higher and Beyond: Perspectives on the Futures of Higher Education to 2050. This project by UNESCO looks at ways in which the education sector reimagines how knowledge and learning can shape the future of humanity and the planet itself. Its objective is to generate an agenda for global debate, research, and action on the futures of education, learning, and knowledge in a world of increasing complexity, uncertainty, and precarity. This would be an invaluable resource for all higher learning institutions globally who are in the process themselves of reimagining their own individual perspectives on what higher education could look like in 2050. In building the bridge over the troubled waters of education post-COVID-19, human values would act as the scaffolding that would support the shaping, the purpose, and the design of higher education, at the same time creating ethically appropriate behavior that would develop potential for all living things in the world. Education driven by values must be integrated across all levels of learning, from primary to secondary to higher education systems. The Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations is one such values-based scaffolding. It is comprised of 17 aspirational goals, with Sustainable Development Goal number 4 specifically dedicated to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. All goals balance the three dimensions of development: the economic, the social, and the environmental, and are framed by 5 key and overarching objectives, which are people, planet, prosperity, peace, and finally, partnerships. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Ms. Amina Mohammed, put it very succinctly when she said that a recovery built on the 2030 Agenda's commitment to partnerships and universality will ensure we move forward together as one humanity with a whole of society approach. So, Your Excellencies, in concluding, COVID-19 will be remembered as the bug that stopped the world. It has nudged and pushed the education sector globally to change. It has presented the sector an opportunity to rise to the occasion and build back better systems that are sustainable, resilient, and inclusive in the post-pandemic world. Ultimately, it is our own collective responses that will determine whether we are able to successfully cross the bridge over the troubled waters and learn from this catastrophic situation to forge a more resilient, human-centered, and sustainable approach to higher education. I thank you all and stay safe.